I have to say, I've been looking forward to this show for a long time.
Yes, a very important show
Yes.
tonight at Studio 67 here in downtown Timmins tonight.
Right, and we have a couple amazing guests with us.
Yes, we do.
Are you going to introduce them there, Mark?
Yes.
Yeah.
To your left, we have Joanne Hager-Parrott
Right.
on the show.
That's right.
Hi, Joanne. Thanks for joining us. And we have from he's the senior manager of the Kidney Foundation of Ontario branch. Craig Lindsay is joining us online tonight. Hey, Craig.
Good evening.
Good. And good evening to you, Joanne.
Good evening.
Right.
Thank you for saying that. I noticed Mark did.
You know what? He slips on his manners. I cover him up all the time.
You got him.
This is how it works around here, Craig.
We're welcoming both superstars here to.
I'm like he's trying to ignore it, but I'm his motherly figure. That's why I sit in the middle. So normally we either have all our guests in studio or chat to a guest online. Tonight we have the privilege of having both. And, Craig's representing the Kidney Foundation Canada Ontario branch.
Yes.
And Joanne's here representing the Timmins chapter, all doing amazing things and are going to share stories and how they can help individuals who it's very close to me, and I'll tell that story in a bit. Walk them through the process, whether they have a kidney disease or they're going to need a transplant at sometimes. These can be scary situations, and we're very fortunate to have the Kidney Foundation to help walk individuals and families through the process.
And amazing programs that are offered for families who, maybe just found out that they're recently diagnosed.
That's right.
And have nowhere to go, but they do have somewhere to go.
So let's start with Craig. Craig, if you could tell us, for some folks that aren't aware, can you tell us a little bit about the Kidney Foundation and what they do to assist individuals and families?
Yeah, absolutely. The Kidney Foundation is the largest non-based charity in Canada, and we have branches across Canada. I'm really proud to be part of the Ontario branch, and certainly to be present in Timmins with Joanne and the local chapter. We have a role to play supporting people wherever they're learning about their diagnosis of kidney disease.
Yeah, just absolutely amazing. And if you have an opportunity post-show to check out, their social media pages or their webpage. What is the webpage, Craig?
Yeah, it's simple, kidney.ca. That's all you need to remember. Whatever your question, wherever you are in your kidney journey, whether your doctor just asked about your kidneys or you're living on dialysis, kidney.ca is the gateway to all the programs and resources that we can connect you with.
I think it's tremendous. I've told this story multiple times, but when my mom, who's looking down on me every day from heaven, sometimes scolding me, sometimes smiling, depends on her mood. But when she was battling Parkinson's, the local association in Thunder Bay was such a big help, not only to her, but also to the families. For the families can be educated and aware to support my mother. And this is what I love learning a lot more about the Kidney Foundation, is that you do provide, resources and support, not to the person in need, but to the families themselves. And that's a super important piece.
Such a good point. Kidney disease, if you don't know, is a chronic life-limiting disease, and there is no cure. If you've been diagnosed with kidney disease, you're managing it. The benefit, if you have caregivers, friends, family who will support you in that journey, is it's a little easier. You have people to lean on. You have people to reach out to when you need help. And I know the Kidney Foundation understands the value of caregivers. You get a little bit of your care in the hospital or at the doctor's office, but what happens outside of it when you pull your family and your friends around you? That's the real support most people need.
And when it comes to some of the major support for these families, recently diagnosed, you've got programs and services. What would families, by going to kidney.ca, what types of programs are there to assist the families when they're, searching for the first time?
Yeah, I mean, Such a great question. Kidney disease affects every part of your life. If you've just got the diagnosis from your family doctor, perhaps you're going to have questions. One of the things we place a high premium on is educational materials. Everyone gets what we call the patient manual, Living with Reduced Kidney Function. It's a well thought out, intentional, easy to read, person centered manual that starts answering the questions you're going to have. Um, Lots of resources online. We have virtual webinars, symposiums. Kidney disease is complex. When I was diagnosed, I didn't even know the questions I would have. And once you start poking around the Kidney Foundation website, you see a link to another resource, Understanding Bone Disease, Hypertension, diet, nutrition. Education is really important. Patients need to self-manage. I think it's important to note, too, that many people who live with kidney disease, if it progresses to a certain point, find it difficult to work. Everything becomes more expensive. You may take time off work. You may go to a lot of appointments. We offer short-term financial assistance just because we understand that when you're living with kidney disease, one of the things you shouldn't worry about is paying your bills or buying your groceries or paying for your medication. We do a little, we hope to do more, but financial assistance is really there for people where there are no other resources. The last program I'll talk about for now, it's really near and dear to my heart, peer support. I think you alluded to this when you spoke about supporting caregivers. When you get that diagnosis and you're sitting in that chair in the clinic, you feel terribly alone. Kidney failure, maybe you think you failed. We really believe, and I know Joanne is passionate about this too, your doctors tell you what's happening to your body, your nurse tells you what your medications are and when to take them, but if you want to know what it feels like to sit in that chair in a dialysis unit or stand in the middle of a grocery store and not know what to purchase, we connect people with other patients, people with lived experience. I'm a firm believer that the sort of knowledge you gain living with kidney disease, like Joanne has, is of immense benefit. Those are just some of the main pillars of support. I hope that piqued your interest.
It did.
Wow, certainly
it really did. And I want to evolve back and chat to Craig about his own personal story, but I want to move over to Joanne. So, I already see the comments, people praising Joanne.
Absolutely.
Joanne does so much in this
work
community, has worked so hard, especially in my beloved South Porcupine, your beloved South Porcupine. I'm going to give you a fist pound for that. And there'll be another day and time to talk about all those awesome things, but this is very personal to you. So are you comfortable telling us a little bit about your own story?
I can certainly share my story. The one thing that I really want to stress is that it's my story and not everybody's story lays out the same way. Not everybody's disease progresses in the same way. Not everybody's symptoms are caused by the same thing. So kidney disease, as much as there's some standard pieces, it's very, very personal. It's very personal. My situation started off quite slow and undiagnosed, which is, fairly common for people with kidney disease. People don't understand really what their kidneys do and how they work and how they're working. So a lot of people, myself included, don't realize things are getting bad until they're really bad, right? And for my own situation, I have both high blood pressure and diabetes, and those are risk factors for kidney disease. But with those two things, there come all kinds of side effects. Tingling feet, cramping, numbness, itchiness, but all of those things are also symptoms of progressing kidney disease. And so I didn't realize that my kidneys were an issue until I started to really retain water in my legs and my ankles, my feet, and retain water to the point where I couldn't walk because my legs, my skin was cracking. It was so full of water, and it was weeping out my knees. My water was dripping onto my feet from my knees. Realized at that point something's really wrong. So I went, and I had some blood work done, and they said, "Oh, your blood is not quite where it should be." So there was a lot more testing, and quite a invasive kinds of things, not just blood work, but a biopsy, and different ways to really figure out what was going on. And then they said, "Yeah, I think you have kidney failure. We're going to send you to a nephrologist." So I went to see the nephrologist, and he started like way back. At one point, I was experiencing near blindness and having very serious eye complications. Well, that was kind of written off to diabetes. And then, there was just all these different kinds of things that had happened over the years. And the nephrologist said, when your kidneys start to fail, your eyes start to fail. They're directly connected. And nobody had told me that before. So when this stuff started happening with my eyes, I just thought, oh, it's got to be a diabetes thing, And so not putting together the pieces, and it's not uncommon for people to have a very gradual, almost blind experience with their symptoms because they're small things that you can write off to this or write off to that. But when I was finally diagnosed, I had jumped right to the end, and my diagnosis is end stage renal failure. So I missed stage 1, 2, 3, 4. I ended up at the end of the spectrum. My first diagnosis,
Wow.
yeah. So that was really overwhelming, very, very overwhelming.
Oh, I bet. I mean, it's overwhelming for a multiple of reasons. One, it's very personal, it's health related, and two, where do you start? And I know there's health professionals, but as Craig mentioned, once you leave the doctor's office, there's a whole life to live with kidney disease. And where do you get help? And where do you get the supports? And how can you self-educate? How can you educate the people around you? All that I bet you feels like a heavy weight on your shoulder on top of dealing with all the health issues that come with kidney disease.
Right. And not only do you have to educate yourself, in some circumstances, you have to educate some of the healthcare professionals, because we still live in a society where our healthcare is offered to us in silos, right? And so if you're dealing with an eye doctor, then you're dealing with an eye issue. If you're dealing with a diabetes educator, then you're dealing with a diabetes issue. But when it comes to kidneys, we're wrapping all those issues together, right? So it's hard to, unless you go to the kidney foundation and get your information directly. It's really hard to navigate those systems.
Oh,
and especially trying
amazing
to
storytelling.
working in
Yeah.
for the first time using dialysis. That must be a whole new ball of wax to get used to. And again, for yourself, Joanne, using dialysis for the first time and now continuing to use dialysis, how do you cope, or how have you been coping with the use of dialysis for the treatment?
I started dialysis a couple of different times in a couple of different ways. So when I started dialysis, I was doing peritoneal dialysis, which you do at home, usually a 4-bag kind of system, 4 times throughout the day. You hook up. You have to have some hardware implanted. You hook up to your hardware. It takes about 40 minutes. Unhook, you're good to go. so I started nice and gently like that. But even with that, there was a lot of limitations. I couldn't do it at work. It needs to be sterile. Just different things, right? You have to plan. They have to be consistently spread out. So at 8 o'clock in the morning, 12, 4, 8. So you're reframing your lifetime, you're reframing your meal times, you're reframing everything around those breaks. At a point that did not provide me with sufficient cleaning. And so I had to move to hemodialysis. And at first I had the catheters implanted in my upper chest. And that worked for a while until it didn't. So I had to have it redone on the second side. And then that worked for a while until it didn't. And so that's when they created the fistula. But again, you have to go to Sudbury to have, from Timmins, you have to go to Sudbury to have a fistula created. And then it takes 6 weeks until that's effective. So you're using systems or modalities that are not necessarily 100% effective at that time. So that's, another big thing to consider. But now that I'm on hemodialysis, I go 3 days a week for a 4-hour treatment takes 5 hours to complete. And so 3 days of 5 hours really is a part-time job, right? So it effectively keeps me away from a full-time job. So, at the point where I was diagnosed, I lost my employment because just not having the time in a day to do all the things that needed to be done. That set you back. That set you back personally. That was a big setback. I felt personally like a failure. Financially, it set you back, right? Because you're pensioned off. And so it has an impact on your life at the time, but forever and a day, it impacts, what you do.
I want to go to a couple of the comments first and then have a question for Craig. So, Ronnie, can you post Louise's comment first?
This is what Louise says. She says, I've been dealing with kidney problems for years. They took out my left kidney March 24th. All started with cervical cancer in 2014, radiation, and Kemp did lots of damage to my lower body.
Yeah. Hearts go out to Louise and Joanne. My best friend had cancer in one kidney 4 years ago. They removed it, and thankfully it didn't go into her second. And then I believe Rob and Alan earlier on mentioned that she was born with one kidney, and she may at some point need the assistance of the Kidney Foundation. So my question to you, Craig, I know there's lots going on, but I have to think two of the main things, obviously, fundraising from the financial aspect to improve the science, improve the transplants, ensure people can live the healthiest life possible in 2023. But the other big piece to me is this awareness piece. So the Joannes, I'll use a saying Mark always says, but the Joannes of this world, to me, this is a hero because she's talking about a very personal, private story that I assume will reach other people and get them more comfortable talking. And the more we talk, the more comfortable people are. To me, that's a positive progression. Do you agree? Are these two important pieces to the Kidney Foundation?
For sure. Right now in Ontario, 12,000 people are doing dialysis, and Joanne described how hard it is. And the number is growing. I think her reference to diabetes and hypertension, that's a rising tide. More people are getting diagnosed with those earlier. And the ultimate consequence for many is kidney failure. We simply can't build enough dialysis units to keep pace. We have to at some point, and we are doing it now, is trying to turn off the tap, getting people aware of the importance of their kidneys, asking their family doctor to do a simple kidney test, to have the blood work done, and maybe reach out and learn a little bit about how to protect they're very good kidney function. So my hope is they never need us. All they need us to do is remind them to check their kidney health. That's such a good point.
Yeah, and you make it right. If we lived in a world where you got no phone calls or emails, it might put you out of a job, but that'd be a perfect world, right?
I would be happy to be out of this job, but the reality is, your kidneys age with you. I thought it was important. Those comments were very interesting. Losing a kidney for many people is not a death sentence. Kidneys are amazing organs. One kidney, and one person actually said they were born with one. You can live quite well. And I think that plays into, at some point, we'll talk about living donation and the opportunity people have to receive a kidney from a loved one.
That's right. Well, I'm willing to share tonight. So my newborn Hudson, he's 5 months old, was born with one kidney, and his kidney's also placed lower than it should be. So the first year of his life, we're at regular visits at Shield, and it's a very, it's scary. Obviously, it's very scary to understate it. I mean, that's a complete understatement, but it's very scary, especially as parents. But one of the tools I've been using is going to the Kidney Foundation webpage, access to tools and resources. And I'm going to continue on that conversation. And I'll use this word again, hero, like people like Joanne, I will have conversations with her because she's living through it. She's willing and open to talk about it. And I think that's great. And that's going to help us personally. And I feel better, just at least talking about it, because that's more information shared for us. And I'm sure you got, Craig, you probably have thousands, maybe tens of thousands of stories like this. Talking doesn't heal everything, but it's definitely a positive step in the journey.
It does. It makes you feel that you're not alone.
There's nothing as reassuring as hearing someone say, that's not a stupid question. I was confused about that too. It's okay to not know. And thanks for being so honest about your lived experience with your young son. We just recently started, actually about a year ago, a specific peer support group for parents of children with kidney disease. I can't imagine what that feels like, to manage the health of a young, vulnerable child. My hope is that everyone, no matter who they are, with what type of kidney journey, there's a home for them here with us. I'm curious, do you find it easy to reach out to other people? I'm glad Joanne's there in your community to mentor you, but it's often hard to ask for help, and we struggle to encourage people to reach out. There's no need to be ashamed.
You're right. It is difficult to ask for help for a lot of people, and we're very fortunate that the resources are here. Like to me personally, I love helping people, but I find it difficult to ask for help personally because you feel vulnerable. But I feel more comfortable in having these discussions like we're having today, and having
different chat groups and programs.
You can self-educate. You can talk with individuals. You can talk with specialists. I feel the more talking, the better.
I agree.
Yeah, you agree. So, well, I'll ask Craig. So you also have a personal story to tell. Are you happy to share any of that information?
Yeah, I think Joanne was right. Everyone's journey is different, but I was very typical. My kidney failure snuck up on me. I didn't really go to my family doctor as often as I should. I wasn't looking after just general health maintenance. I was flying as a flight paramedic in Ontario with the air ambulance system, and you would think I would know better. But it still took me by surprise, and you feel just as confused, just as vulnerable, just as often hopeless when you get that diagnosis. But I did in-center hemodialysis and ultimately home hemodialysis. My partner and my young son and I felt it was important that I be at home, that I could sit in the basement on the dialysis machine and help my young son with his homework or watch movies with my partner. We committed to that, and ultimately I received a kidney pancreas transplant from a deceased donor after 5 years. But we built resilience, we built strength, we maintained hope. Even if I hadn't received a transplant, I know with all the resources out there, I was on a path to a productive, happy, full life.
That's right. But once again, you know, when you're first diagnosed and the conversation comes up, it's a scary moment. And you pulled the ultimate guy thing. We all, you know, we don't visit our doctors on a regular. Most of us don't want to
we
cross
all
by
all
everyone.
think we're you know, not going to
Well,
get hit with
whether
that
it's
bullet or dodge the
denial,
bullet.
like
Yeah,
Joanne said,
denial.
or just
Yeah.
stubbornness. I
I'm
find
going to say stubborn too. We're all stubborn.
more males than females, and I'm sure that there's a mix, but I fall into that group too. Like, I'll go when it's urgently needed.
Right?
But that's not the right way, though. I'm not preaching.
Regular checkups.
Yeah.
Got to keep make sure the oil is filled in the machines, right? Or else, you know,
That's
in this
the cliche
case,
tonight.
The
The oil's filled in the machine.
Got to make sure the bodies are up to par, right?
So, Joanne, you know, we're chatting with Craig from the Ontario branch. Tell us a little bit about what the Timmins chapter is up to and how folks can get involved if that's a possibility.
Oh, absolutely. The Timmins chapter is focused more on supporting individuals in the Timmins and surrounding community. We have a program where we provide snacks for people doing hemodialysis because it's a long time, a long afternoon. A lot of people are diabetic, so you need that snack kind of midway through. So we have that program. We have a coffee program, so those who go to dialysis at 7 o'clock in the morning, there's a coffee maker and coffee service there for them free of charge, just as a little nicer way to wake up. The other thing is that I always call my dialysis coffee my free coffee of the day because I have to measure all of the fluid that I take in a day, and I'm only allowed to have a liter of fluid in a whole day. So if I have my coffee during dialysis, it goes in and out at the same time, doesn't count. So I can sneak in a coffee that way.
You can still sneak a coffee that way.
Sneak in a coffee
You got to
that
take the
way.
positives when you can take
That's
the positives.
right.
There you go.
Brilliant. As a
Yeah.
coffee
So-
drinker, I support you all the way on
Right?
this.
So we wanted it to be a bit nicer. It's 7 o'clock in the morning, especially in Timmins. It's so cold. In the winter, it's so cold. And so we wanted people to have a little nice moment when they arrived, and this free coffee gets people excited. So that's another thing that we're doing. We have, we made the initial contact with you in terms of helping to get our messaging across, particularly about donation. I do a lot of talking with people just about their experience and what do they think and how do they feel about it, and what else could be helpful, and directing them to the kidney website. We have our kidney walk in September. We organize a walk around Gillies Lake as part of the Canada-wide program, but we raise a few $1,000s locally for that. So we're here for emergencies. We're here for support, and we're just here to really try to send the message that you're not alone in this process, because I'm not sure about little people when they're born without a kidney and stuff. That's not my area, so I'll ask you some things after. But I know as an adult, often you'll say to someone, "Oh, I have kidney disease," and they'll think that you had a problem with alcohol, or they think that you've committed something that this is the result of, right? So for a lot of people, there's a lot of shame with
victim blaming or whatever the term is.
Yeah, a lot of shame. And we have a lot of in our particular hemo unit, we have a lot of older people, and older people who don't necessarily access the internet for kidney.ca, or don't necessarily some of them have some significant difficulty reading, right? So it's about connecting people with other people that they can chat with. And we're working on getting our local branch a peer-to-peer support, working actively on that right now. So
I love the fact that you mentioned the coffee, because some people call them the smaller things. I call them the finer
The
things.
finer things
So
in life.
everyone would love to win the lottery, a house, and although of course that's an obvious statement, but often the smaller things are the best things. And I love this coffee because it gives you a sense of normalcy, a sense of welcoming. Usually, with a cup of coffee, you can associate a conversation or just tranquility, whatever it may be, relaxation. It's a beautiful thing. Like it's an awesome thing to do, because not everything needs to be like a grand gesture and overwhelming.
Right.
So this, it's a piece to make people feel comfortable.
Well, and it's an
Yeah.
opportunity. There's a little tiny kitchenette. You can go in there and make your coffee. Somebody else is waiting to make a coffee. You can make a connection, right? Because when you're in your hemodialysis setup, um, you're not anywhere near someone that you can talk to, right? So you just make that little connection, and then the next time you can add to that connection, add to that conversation. Um, really start building something. So
Yeah,
that's
totally
that's
awesome.
the that's
Awesome.
the impetus behind that.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that. I have to ask Craig a question, because, working with the Kidney Foundation, well, it's been awesome the last month, but you often see the word, be a donor. Um, for people not in the know, and I'm including myself because
There's a
I'm
lot of
still at the
people not in
beginning
the
of the
know.
learning curve. But when you say, like, would you like to be a donor, that could be like a scary thing, because people think, okay, you're taking an organ out of my body that I may need one day. How much emphasis does the Kidney Foundation put on, being a donor, and, educating people on, it's a safe practice to do, and the amount of need? How much work goes around that area?
You're absolutely right. The thought of giving up a piece of your body, something the Kidney Foundation tells you, is actually really important too. Um, there's a lot of work we try to do around reassuring people that the process is safe. The workup, if say my kidneys failed and my brother thought he would like to be tested as a living donor, um, the testing is rigorous. The best way to find out exactly what your health is to volunteer to be a living donor. You'll be poked and prodded and tested. None of it's painful. The goal is to make sure that donating a kidney puts you at no risk. So there are some clear reasons why you wouldn't. If you live with diabetes, for example, there's a chance, a higher than normal chance, that you would develop kidney failure at some point too. So you would not be suitable. But I tell people all the time, if they feel in any way it's unsafe, they simply won't do it. The system is built on safety. It's nice if they can get the kidney, but they certainly don't want to put people at risk. There's a lot of misconceptions around this, that they'll let someone die on the table because they want their kidneys. It's simply not true. Um, these are brave people who step forward to either donate a kidney or to register as an organ donor. I'm curious, are the both of you registered to be deceased organ donors, if you're comfortable saying, or do you know?
I've signed the back of my card. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know if you heard, but our board guy, Ronnie, can't see him, but you may hear him a little bit, but he's also a donor. And yeah, I've signed the back of my card also, because I feel like, if you like, that's an opportunity to give to
To
someone
pay
in
it
need.
forward. The
Oh,
ultimate
yeah.
pay it forward.
Of course.
If I can die to make somebody
But-
live, that's my
Yeah.
life.
So it's tough to hear Ronnie, but if he passes and if he can make someone live a healthy life, he's happy
He's
with that.
going to do that.
But it's still, once again, like when you go, to kidney.ca, there's a lot of information about being a donor, and I was happy to see it, because it's still a scary process.
You're
It's
right.
yeah. And there's one thing, if my son needed a kidney, I would give it to my son immediately. That's my son. But we need more than that. Like, most people would come forward for family, most people. But you need more than that, because not everyone has a family member, or has a family member that's a good candidate. And this is why I got to see a lot of, I call it marketing, but a lot of the messaging out there is about being a donor and how you can be a donor and why it's so important.
Mhm.
And, it's, talking about the medical procedure behind it to put people at ease. It's an important message.
You're right. And I think, we see related donations, husbands to wives, parents to children, children to parents, but there's a rising number of people who are doing what we call altruistic donations. They don't come with someone in mind. They donate a kidney into that general pool of people waiting for a life-changing transplant. I can't imagine the courage and generosity behind that, but it's happening. People want to have an impact with their life, and if they can do it while they're still alive and do something that will in no way impact their health, more people are grabbing at that chance. That's tremendously encouraging.
Yeah. And I think not too many positives coming out of COVID, but one of the few is these awful stories that we read about people passing away alone without even like one person by their side due to whether it's restrictions, family being unable to travel. But on the positive end, I think we grew in empathy. So I'm wondering if you've received an upsurge in people willing to be donors to ensure that, if we had another pandemic, there may be an opportunity for someone to continue their life, even those without close family surrounding them and willing to donate. Have these numbers bumped up a bit?
Sorry, the numbers for
Donors.
Yeah, there was a decrease during COVID. I would say the number of transplants that were possible, it diminished because there was no capacity to do transplants. As much as transplants are life-changing, they're elective. If hospitals were engaged in managing COVID and their ICU was full, a lot of people waited a little longer for transplants. But now that we're exiting out the other side of that once in a lifetime pandemic, people are picking up the mantle and they're saying, let's move this forward. I'm going to register. I've got a donor. I've signed my card. I'm going to start the testing. And that's partly our role. We need to keep the conversation alive.
I think, and are you echoing the same here in Timmins, Joanne? Like the amount of conversation needs to continue. We need to continue, being in front of the public and making people feel comfortable and building awareness. Is it the same need we're feeling in our community?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, we have a large Aboriginal population that's also high risk for kidney issues, so we need to keep the conversation reflective of our community. So we want people talking, we want people asking questions more than anything else. Ask questions, because if we don't know the answer, we know a good place to start to find it, right?
That's right.
So,
is there, so I'll speak to folks locally here again, because a lot of the folks locally are watching the show. So if they had questions, wanted to be involved, I know the contact, you chatted a little bit about the contact information, but what would be the first step someone can do here in our community?
first thing they could do in our community, they could contact myself or Marlene Smith, and with some questions, we can give some answers, some direction. We can hook them up with the kidney.ca website, so they can flesh out the answers in a bigger way. But my experience with several different healthcare issues is people really want to talk to a person first. They want that person to help normalize the situation, normalize the feelings, more than anything, normalize the fear, because fear is so much lessened if it's shared, right? So we can reach out to a person, connect, say, hey, I had the same questions. That's a really good question. This is what helped me. But if you go to kidney.ca, there might be other answers. There's other people. We're starting up a support group. Do you want to come in? You don't have to be experiencing kidney disease yourself. You could be the support person for someone experiencing, and you'd be welcome into the various peer support circles that are going on, and bring somebody in by the hand.
That's
That's right. Maybe they just need that, just that push or a bit of encouragement to, to get and seek some of those answers. And again, the numbers are on the rise. Craig, it's 1 in 10 Canadians right now currently will develop kidney disease. Is that number continuing to climb, or is it still the 1 in 10?
1 in 10 Canadians have kidney disease. They're not at risk. They have it. And that's a little scary, but the reassuring part is that for the people who are very early in that diagnosis, there's so much they can do. We're concerned about that growth as well. We don't live as active lifestyles. We tend to eat not as well as we should. Diabetes, hypertension, a little overweight, all these things put you at risk. So we want to chip away at that number. It's hard. We want to make people understand this is important, but that there's hope. It can be bad, but it doesn't have to be. Like, how do you do both?
Right. Yeah, that's right. How do you find that right balance? It saves lives. My dad passed, and they said this donation saves so many. His donation saves so many lives. So thanks for sharing that, Robin. And she's absolutely right. What an amazing tribute her father has left, and that's a hero to me right there. Like these are the real heroes that are doing this. I had a question for you, Craig. So obviously, looking over the Ontario umbrella, which the Ontario branch obviously does, the needs in a northern community may be like slightly different than in a southern community, especially access to services. We are limited here. So when the Kidney Foundation looks over Ontario, are there certain things they do in a smaller community compared to a larger city center, or is it sort of the same?
You're right. It's not a cookie cutter approach at all. And this most recent strategic plan, we're focusing a lot of time, energy, and resources on a northern strategy. We speak to patients, people living with kidney disease, but we also speak to healthcare providers from Sault Ste. Marie, Thunder Bay, Kenora, Dryden, Sioux Lookout, Moosonee, and they very clearly tell us the challenges, the barriers, the inequities, and some of that we can act on. We can align more resources. We can support travel in the north. We can advance education efforts around disenfranchised communities, but we also have a role to play in advocacy. If resources aren't being shared appropriately, if you live in Thunder Bay or Sault Ste. Marie or Timmins and don't have access to definitive, excellent, high quality, safe care, that's something the Kidney Foundation needs to raise a voice to. And we have the power of thousands of voices, people living with it, healthcare providers. We have work to do in advocating for equity through the North. And who better to do it than people in the North in partnership with us?
Yeah, because like John, you're living through it, so you could be a strong testimonial.
Yeah.
Of the need.
Yeah, and the need is unique in the North, and one example, we're going through another family health crisis at the moment, and my family is in Sudbury struggling, and I'm not able to be with them because I need to be here in my chair 3 times a week to do dialysis. If there was more room, I could do it in Sudbury, but there's not enough room for me to do it there. So I'm not able to be with my parents while they go through this, and that's kind of a thing that people don't think about either. It's not just me that things that this kidney disease impacts. It impacts on my family, my children, my parents, my friends. We all play a role in supporting me in this journey. And I have an incredible family and circle of friends, and I'm very grateful to that. So I try hard to reach out to somebody else's circle, and bring them in and let them see how it feels when you're supported like that. So
Yeah, it can make a big difference
That's right.
in someone's quality of life and their overall happiness in a very terrible circumstance, just to be supportive and listen. And I'm going to go back to your coffee analogy or your coffee situation. That's why I love it so much, because having a cup of coffee is about listening. Now, I talk to Mark, keep laughing. He don't listen to me with coffee, but everyone else, 99.9, it's about relax and sitting down and listening. And even if you can listen to someone just for a couple minutes, can make a huge difference.
absolutely, absolutely, and that's really the goal behind the coffee program. It's a small thing, but it creates opportunity to connect, and that's really, I mean, things take off in incredible ways when people get together and people are connected. So.
How important is sorry, Kinsman, I got so many questions tonight. I won't make the show 10 hours, I promise. But probably what the last one, I have is, I think all the communities probably have an important voice when it comes to making Ontario decisions. So if Joanne was to come forward with an idea, or I'll call it the coffee program, for lack of a better term, is very effective in Timmins, I'm sure Joanne, as a representative here, brings that to the Ontario table, and that's probably implemented in all the communities because you've seen positive results. I assume that every community has an equal strong voice when it comes to making Ontario-wide implementations.
Yeah, that's a good observation. We want to be a learning system, a learning healthcare system. And if something is working in one region, one chapter, one community, then we're proud to share that. If I speak to Marlene and Joanne in Timmins and learn about that, and the next meeting is with the Ottawa chapter, I'll say, hey, Jennifer, have you given some thought to this? I'm hearing great things about having a simple thing as a coffee machine in a unit that allows people to connect. We have a role to play in that. We make people feel less alone. Everything we do that brings a little normalcy back into your life is time well spent. We want people to dialyze to live, not live to dialyze.
That's right. And something I wanted to ask Craig, you said there is no cure, but with the evolution of medicines and research and, donations coming into the Kidney Association and the foundation, what types of advances, now that we're in 2023 now, is there some hope, maybe a light at the end of the tunnel toward an eventual cure for this disease?
Yeah, I'm happy to say the Kidney Foundation 60 years ago was started with the intention of research. A family in Montreal lost a young son to kidney disease, and the Tarter family said, we're going to create a foundation. Kidney disease was poorly understood, seldom treated well, and transplant was a theoretical idea. We're a long way from there, and the $120-some million we've committed to research has allowed us to identify people at risk. It's allowed us to manage blood pressure, improve treatment for diabetes, slow the progression, and improve dialysis. The notion that people could do dialysis through a catheter in their abdomen instead of through their bloodstream, or that they could do it at home rather than traveling to a dialysis unit. These are all the results of investments in research. I'm excited about the ideas of synthetic kidneys, growing kidneys, artificial kidneys, and certainly all the advances in transplant medicine. If you received a transplant 40 years ago, there was a better than 50% chance it wasn't going to last. Now it's remarkable if the body does reject it. The new drugs that help people accept a foreign organ in their body are entirely the result of research, and we're proud to partner with some of the really smartest scientists in Canada and abroad, people passionate about making life better for those diagnosed and for those that don't even know they have kidney disease. I'm glad you brought that forward. What are we giving people hope for? A future with no failure.
That's right. Excellent. It's nice to see the advances, and again, that's the importance of going to, kidney.ca. If you're, looking to see if you are one of the 1 in 10, it's kidney.ca/risk. And again, when you do get the diagnosis, that there should be no cloud. You should, there's hope at the end of the
There's
tunnel. And again, yes, no cure, but the advances are there to keep people managing it as they live, you know, quote unquote normal life.
And when you think of the 1 in 10 number, most of us, I don't have 10 friends, but I know 10 people, you know, including, I just got one friend here, Craig. Okay. I don't got a big social circle. But if you add in your family, you more than likely know 10 people. So that means in that group, you more than likely have someone that this is going to have a direct effect on. So it's more than likely someone that you care deeply about and love. So this is how, like, I don't know how to put it, but like how that number is, you know, obviously we'd like to see that change, but this will affect more than likely someone that you know and love. And
I challenge both of you to, if you know someone who's living with diabetes, or they say, oh, my blood pressure's high, or carrying a little extra weight around like me, it's have the courage, speak up and say, I'm worried. Have you ever talked to your doctor about having your kidneys tested? Simple conversation. That's what we can do. Ask the people we care about. We care about you. Care about your kidneys.
And get them to get that regular checkup that you were saying you were putting to the side. And again, it just stresses that, yes, get your, you know, I like to say, get your oil checked regularly. Don't
well said, Mark.
That's right.
He loves that line. If you can, he's been waiting all day to tell you that, Craig. You even wrote it on
our
the
cue
whiteboard.
cards there.
Okay, so before we leave, you know, so many well-deserved, beautiful comments about Joanne, because you know, on a separate show, but everyone knows that Joanne does so much for the community.
So much. There's so
amazing
much stuff
things
she does in this community.
Especially me as a South Ender, Joanne a South Ender, you know.
We love Joanne.
There's going to be a statue of Joanne right now built. But is there anything else that we haven't chatted about that you would like to address?
No, I think, you know, Craig put it so well. Talk, ask questions. You know, if you have this in your mind about the prevalence, and if you have it in your mind some of the risk factors, really reach out to the people you love. It's so much better to support them in the early stages, or to support them through a doctor's appointment, as opposed to support them through dialysis. So keep your friends and loved ones close and keep them on the hook and get their oil changed.
Get their oil.
Get the oil changed.
That could be the new kidney.
That's the new kidney slogan. There you go,
right,
Craig. You can patent that there.
And you're giving them that slogan for free, KINZ.
That's right.
He's signing it
Craig,
up.
feel free to use that at all your meetings.
Thank you, Mark.
Anything else you'd like to chat about or bring up again, Craig, before we say goodnight?
You know, to your credit, you've covered a lot. You've asked good questions, and these are things we think about. How can we do more with what we have? How can we raise awareness? How can we give hope for people who are going into dialysis? Yeah, this was such a good conversation. You really touched on all of the reasons why I'm passionate about supporting the Kidney Foundation. I hope we've stirred some interest in your community, that people will ask questions, people will reach out locally. Pick up the phone. My entire team lives on dialysis. They're all people, you know, who believe it. Really proud that the Kidney Foundation is built on the backs of people living with kidney disease and understand the importance of helping one another. Such a great conversation you've guided us through tonight.
Oh, well, we appreciate that.
We appreciate you so much, Craig, coming on tonight.
Well, there we go. Well, thank you,
Joanne.
Thank you so much, Joanne. And always a pleasure. And it was finally nice to meet you, you know, Craig. We've been chatting with your team for a while, and we hope to do a lot more. But both of you are doing beautiful work.
Yeah, beautiful work behind the scenes, in front of the scenes, and keeping, you know, the conversation flowing. And that's what people need to do.
So www.kidney.ca.
And if you want to check and see if you are at risk, it's kidney.ca/risk. And again, 1 in 10 Canadians have kidney disease right now.
And that means someone more than likely that you care about has kidney disease. So let's continue the conversation.
Continue it flowing.
There we go. All right. So we'll get Ronnie to close it out as we say goodnight. And Enjoy. It's actually sunny here in Timmins. Believe it.
gorgeous.
We're getting this Toronto weather.
Yes.
Right? We're getting this.
No, it's going to rain tomorrow, though. What's that? Game 4, the Leafs, Panthers.
We almost made it
What's
through a
gonna
whole
happen?
show without Leaf talk. Oh, no. We're going to clue in now. Good night, Craig, and
Hey,
thank
good
you,
night,
Joanne.
Joanne.
Yeah.
See you tomorrow night, 7 o'clock.
Good night.
Good night, guys.
I'm so done being your friend. You're